Roll call, please.
Dan Bale,
Here.
Brian Hurley, Brian Schneckenberger,
Here.
Kevin Dayhoff,
Here.
Grant Adams.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to advise that all testimony is being recorded. All persons speaking will be asked to give their name for the record and to spell their last name so that the minutes can be accurate. Please turn off all of your cell phones. The order of those speaking would be that of the petitioner to first have the first 10 minutes in which to make his or her presentation, followed by 10 minutes for all remonstrators to speak, 5 minutes for any government officials who wish to address the issues, and then 5 minutes for rebuttal by the petitioner. Our attorney will give each side a 2-minute and 1-minute warning as time is expiring. We ask that all persons conduct themselves in a civil manner and reserve the right to request those who are disruptive to leave. For the first order of business, do we have any agenda considerations?
Not a specific agenda consideration, but just want to introduce our new Assistant Director of Planning, Holly Kinker. She's been with us for about a month and is doing an excellent job, and you're going to hear from her all night long tonight.
Welcome, Holly. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the March minutes. When everybody feels like there's no changes, or
I'll make a motion to approve the March minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we have any old business? New business. The first item is BZA 25003.
Okay, so this first petition is for a special exception for a home occupation for an in-home daycare. There's also a variance associated with this petition, variance from development standards. Currently, code reads that a home occupation cannot exceed 500 square feet of your home. The petitioner is requesting to use a fair amount of her first floor for the home occupation. Therefore, she's requesting that increase in variance. This property is located on Conti Court in Villages at Brookside, Vernon Township. The current zoning, of course, is a planned unit development. Sits on just a little over 1/4 of an acre. And again, that variance is to exceed the square footage from 500 square feet to 1,039 square feet. So the special exception criteria is local code. So you all are familiar with that. And then, of course, variance is statutorily through Indiana code. Staff currently does find this petition to be supportive. We have presented some suggested conditions should you wish to entertain a favorable recommendation. Would you like the petitioner to come forward? Do you have questions for staff?
I think we'll go ahead and have the petitioner come up to present, and then we'll go with questions. And then if you can state your name and spell your last name.
Yes, my name is, my real name is Koran, K-O-R-A, oh, sorry, and I go by Corey, and my last name is Covington, C-O-V-I-N-G-T-O-N. I'm just here today to serve the community. There is a need for childcare, affordable and good childcare, and I've been working in childcare for about 14 years, and I've seen the need in my neighborhood as well as with friends needing childcare as well. And included in the variance for the square footage, I know it's in the petition, but it states that that includes like a restroom, play areas, a kitchen and dining area as well, so that the children are not just stuffed into one little area and they can have room to play. We noticed that there could possibly be potential for traffic or parking issues in the neighborhood, so we came up with a simple plan, just allowing parents to wait in a designated area and then park in the driveway as needed, as well as having staggered drop-off and pickup times. We have several letters of support, and this would include children that I've cared for in the past, as well as my employer, which is my mother, or was my mother, and as well as just people that are in need of this service. So this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. Is there any questions that I can answer?
At the moment, it just says for 10. Is that just because you're the only one licensed?
So I actually have not moved forward with the license. Through the state of Indiana, if you have children that vary in age, you can have up to 10 with one caregiver. And of course, the ages have to be within a certain ratio as well. So I can't have like 10 babies or something like that.
Okay.
I think the most that you can have with 2 caregivers is 12, but I'm not really interested in that at this moment. 10 would be far
Okay.
enough.
I think you did say in your packet that you will have some that are like siblings, so there'd be a little
Yes.
less traffic just because it'd be multiple. coming
Right,
in a car.
yes. As well as a neighbor that has showed interest, well, a few neighbors that are interested in not only the summer, but coming up in the fall as well.
And then hours of operation, it says Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 5. Just want to make sure that's good.
Yes. Also, the hours may differ during the school year. They may be we may be closing a little bit earlier.
Have you brought this up with your immediate neighbors?
So my closest neighbor is actually wanting her child to come, and then we have another neighbor. I've talked to them in passing about it, but never really asked, like, hey, are you okay with this? But I'd be totally willing to do that. And then there may be like 4 more neighbors that would be like right in the vicinity of our house that it could possibly affect. But I have not asked them if it is okay.
Do you have any other questions for the petitioner? All right, well, we do need to hold a public hearing, so I'll let you sit
Yes,
down.
okay.
I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public present who would like to ask a question or make a comment? If so, please come up to the microphone. And again, state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Scott Hines, Hines. The only reason I just wanted to share something, not that we don't need childcare, but the HOA, I think there are neighbors that support it. There were some that complained to the HOA board. And in the covenants of the HOA, it does not allow businesses to operate out of the home. And I think it specifically talks about if it has additional traffic in and out of the home. So I think that's the HOA obligation to try to consistently enforce things. So I have a copy of the page if you guys want that.
Yeah.
That's all I had to share.
We'd love to have that. Thank you.
May I step forward? Yeah.
My name is Elizabeth. I am a mom of 3. This is my daughter, Charlotte. We've known Corey for almost 10 years. Charlie's 9.5. We started looking for childcare when I was pregnant with her, and we were running into either, the options that we did want were unaffordable, or the, places that we could afford were not necessarily where we would want to send her. I've since had 2 other children who have been fortunate enough to go to Corey's business when she was running with her mom. And I could go on all day about how lucky we are to have Corey as an extension of our family and raising our kids. I did want to know a couple things about her business. Charlie, not only was it affordable, but when Charlie went to kindergarten, She was already reading, and she was approaching, when they did the beginning of the year assessments, she was approaching a first grade level on many of the measurements. So, to find somewhere that's affordable and you're getting that sort of early education for your kids is huge. We've had zero safety issues or concerns. We've never once had any incidents or accidents. And they're very good about communicating and letting us know if there's anything else going on. Certainly with privacy to other families, but also, if there's anything else that we need to know about, we feel that their communication has always been excellent. And then finally, her house, both interior and exterior, is not only safe, but it's extremely clean. It's a really clean environment for all the kids. So, as I'm sure we're all aware, finding affordable childcare is hard, and finding out somebody who has the experience and the passion that she has for the kids is almost impossible. And I think that she'd be a really great benefit, and the town of McCordsville would be very lucky to have her running a business out of their city, and she'd be helping a lot of the working parents in the community.
And can you, I didn't get your last name.
Oh, Jared, Jared.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else who would wish to speak at this time? I will note that there's nobody else wishing to speak, but I did want to acknowledge we did receive the letters of recommendation or letters of support. So I just wanted to put that down, that we do have those for public record. Okay. Going back to staff to acknowledge the HOA part. I guess in the past I've known that we have, I'm kind of also thinking plan commission here, so I just want to make sure I get this right. We have put some stipulations that you have to receive approval from your HOA. What would be the best approach here, looking at the documents that you have seen?
Well, I think it's what we've received is open to some interpretation. It doesn't outright say that this is prohibited. So I think that, should I get approval from there?
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where, we want to be careful. Our processes are separate from private processes with HOA, between HOAs and their property and lot owners. And they have their own processes for approval and how they interpret those things. So, again, we just saw this tonight. We did ask for it previously. It's also one page out of probably a 20 or 30 page document. So I think my initial reaction is for the town to move forward with this process, whatever that vote may be. If you want to make a motion to approve, it probably makes sense. You could condition that upon them receiving their HOA approval, or you could not. You could keep it completely separate as well. So I think there's two or three options for you to proceed with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Good.
Did you want me to, I'm happy to comment. Do you want me to comment on something?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. I agree with Brian entirely. I mean, this is the administrative process that we do here to ensure that they comply with our laws is one phase. You do see in several communities that you require an HOA approval on things. I've not seen the document to give an opinion of whether or not home occupations are permitted or not permitted. So I can't speak to that. So you could approve it with the contingency that she has to get HOA or not. If you do no, as long as the homeowner understands that she potentially is exposing herself to private liability, if you are in an HOA that doesn't permit it and you attempt to operate a business, but that's a private, not a town issue. So that's where you have to we don't want to cross boundaries, but does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Yeah. Do we have any other questions, comments, concerns?
I would just say personally, I think I would rather see them get the approval from the HOA before we proceed and invest our time into it. That's just my opinion.
So the one thing I'll say to that is, and I'm not speaking with any specificity to the Villages at Brookside HOA. This is a general statement. All HOAs are not created equal. Some are very efficient, well-run organizations. Some are less so. and their interpretations of their own covenants and restrictions can vary widely from board to board, time to time, when members change. And so board decision, staff always takes a look at this. We've never required someone to get an HOA approval prior to us issuing a permit. We've certainly said, we want you to get your HOA's approval, and you should get that. But I always fear that we're going to put ourselves on the line and refuse to issue a permit for something that meets our requirements because the HOA is not doing their job. That puts us at liability a little bit. So again, you know, I think, again, a 3-second read of this tells me there's a couple ways to interpret it, and this could end up in a civil matter between the HOA and the petitioner. And do we want to be in the middle of saying we won't even entertain our process until you absolve this issue? Or do we just want to say approve or deny? Let's say it's approved, but approved contingent upon getting that. That means we've approved our part, we're out of it. If they get their approval, then they're aces, they're good to go. If they don't get it, then they have a problem, but we've taken care of our side of the business. That's just staff's recommendation, it's just our opinion on it.
Thank you, Ryan.
May I say one more thing, request?
We can open the public hearing back up. That's okay with me. That's okay with the board?
Yes.
Okay.
When thinking about this decision, we have, we're approaching the end of the school year. So if there is, kind of as you were explaining, that if it does take some time to get the HOA approval, if there's maybe an interim decision where it's okay because with summer approaching, a lot of us are going to need childcare during the summer. So if it's maybe something where we can have it at least temporary until the HOA makes a decision, that would be really helpful for a lot of families that are really hoping that that's where we can send our kids this summer. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak as we've reopened the public hearing? Okay, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. If there are no further questions or comments, I think the first order of operations here would be the special exception.
Correct.
So-
The variance is not necessary.
Yes, so I would entertain a motion in regards to the special exception.
Just remind everyone, we do have some suggested conditions of approval on the screen.
Yep. And also, if there are changes to the conditions of approval, we would need to motion that separately.
Correct. If you want to condition upon the HOA, getting HOA approval post your action,
Yep.
we would want to add that tonight.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve it pending the HOA approval.
And does that include staff suggested conditions of approval as well?
Yes. After
Okay.
reading them, yes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Next, I would need a motion for the development standard variance.
Where's that at?
Yeah, can you pull up, sorry, what is that just the size?
It is,
Okay,
yes.
That would be just the change of, the requirement currently is under 500. We would have a variance because it's over 500.
Is there a number associated with that? Like a line item?
The square footage?
Yeah,
1,039,
1,039?
yes.
So we would just look for a motion for the standard variance for BZA 25003.
That's what I'm trying to find. I'll make a motion to prove that, there it is, for the standard variance to allow more square footage BZA 25003.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Do we need to adopt findings?
They're in the staff report.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That we don't separately approve? I don't remember.
We have it
don't
in the
separately
past.
approve those?
We have it in the past.
Okay.
We've, because it's concurrence with the staff report, their motion to approve assumes they are accepting of the findings of fact. Had we gone opposite of staff recommendations, we would bring back revised findings of fact next month.
Okay.
Congratulations, petitioner.
Next item on the agenda is BZA 25004 for Matt McCord. They have a request for a special exception and development standard variances.
So the petitioner is requesting approval of a special exception for a drive-through establishment and several variances associated with that petition. This is in the neighborhood commercial zoning district. It's also in our highway corridor overlay. Here's our current zoning. Staff has worked with the petitioners through this entire process to improve the plan, to reduce some of the variances in order to better meet code. So it's been a positive process. This is a little over 1/2 of an acre, and on the screen here I've listed all of the variances to the site as well as architectural for you to review. This is also in your packet.
Do we have the petitioner here to speak? You can go ahead and come up.
Hello, my name's Morgan Hyam. I'm with Matt McCord. Last name's Highum. So on the screen are our proposed elevations. There are several variances here, which Holly explained, both site and architectural. The site variances she listed on the last slide. Most of these variances are similar to what our neighbor Culver's did, just to our east. The setback lines on all 4 property lines. And then the 2 other variances are for the one-way traffic, which is our drive-through lane on the west side of the site, and then impervious lot coverage, decreasing that. And then several architectural variances here as well, mostly related to the drive-through on the south side of the building along Broadway. We're pretty proud of these elevations. We think it's a cool looking building. We've added windows. Are those?
I think it's the updated one.
Yeah, I think those are the original ones.
A
We made a
later
few
page.
changes to the
Yeah.
west
Right next-
elevation.
Yep.
That's the south side.
Yes, that's south.
With the drive-through window. And then the west side's there.
Going back to the south side, can you explain why you guys did not remove the awning over that?
Mhm. Yeah, so that's a requirement of Starbucks here. The awning helps us pass our comm check and then also blocks the sun for the operations team and the Starbucks partners working the drive-through.
Is there anything further in your further presentation before you have questions?
I don't think so. We've been working with Culver's for a while now, and we'll share access with Culver's from Broadway Street. That will be the main point of access. And then we have a declaration that we've worked through with them to provide shared access, and stormwater will be shared through their site. And then NDOT, we've had a traffic study completed and in the process of reviewing that with NDOT.
So we don't have the results.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. You don't have the results yet?
No.
Okay.
We've submitted our report in January. We have a meeting scheduled next week with their
Okay.
team.
Board, I know we have questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys ask your questions. I don't know if it's a question as much as a concern for me personally. I understand we've moved the elevation or the drive-through window to the south side of the building to try to give as much stacking as possible, but what that's done is essentially, we've also turned this into, we have a very narrow entryway off Broadway, which at this point, because of the median, would be right in, right out, I'm assuming.
Right in, right out, and left in.
Okay. And then there is going to be connection to Railroad Street, which can only be accessed, well, can it be accessed from Oleo
Yeah.
at this point?
Right in.
Currently.
Well, I can, yes.
I think what I'm trying to get at is this is a tiny, tiny site. When Culver's initially came and presented, I know there was like a whole nother piece of that presentation. The whole issue with the first one was that like this was really hard to put two buildings on the two sites, and we made this site super tiny. My big concern is we now have this singular drive-through, and I understand stacking is occurring, but like in my experience in going through these narrow drive-throughs, if you're in it, like you're stuck. Like there's no way to get out at that point. And then looking at the parking area, turning in and then trying to turn around if you don't really want to go in through the drive-through, you're trying to do anything. I just have major concerns about the size of this and the parking. And I guess I kind of want to better understand, is this intended to be more of a drive-through only, or are you going to have outdoor seating, indoor seating? Like, what is the intention? What are the hours of operation to understand really, truly that traffic?
So backing up a little bit, when we originally showed Starbucks on the site plan, we did have the drive-through window on the west side. And Starbucks changed their mind, and then also with suggestion from staff, we were able to put it on the south side of the building, which did give them more stacking and more parking spaces. This is not a drive-through only location. There will be seating inside, and then there will be a patio back on the back side of the building. I'm not sure their exact hours of operation here. I assume will be the standard Starbucks hours, but there will be seating inside. And then they'll also utilize some of those parking spaces for pickup only. So have people run in and pick up a mobile order.
I know you don't work for Starbucks, but do you do like the approximate amount of employees, or because they're going to have parking too, and that would be a concern
I think it's about 9 to 10 during
like,
peak hours, I would say. That's maybe a little less.
And how many parking spaces are there currently? I don't know if Ryan knows this off the top of his head, or Holly.
I do not remember the number of parking spaces.
I don't know either. It might be
count.
on this site plan.
It's on here.
Looks like 28,
28.
Okay.
couple handicap.
With this new site plan too, our dumpster location shifted a little bit too. It was on the other side of the site, on the east, kind of where that road parking is.
To continue to answer your questions, our parking ordinance is 1 space per 3 seats plus 1 per employee on largest shift. I don't think we've seen a seating chart from Starbucks yet, so we kind of rely on them to have reviewed our code and know what the parking requirements are.
Yeah. And there's probably more questions, but I kind of, knowing that you guys, so you're meeting with NDOT's next week.
We've been communicating with NDOT for several months now, but we do have a meeting scheduled with them next week,
Okay.
yes.
I can't confirm that they have been working with NDOT for quite some time.
Okay. And then we don't have a seating chart. Is that something that your team could get from Starbucks?
Yes. Or do you need a seating chart, or we've provided the floor plan. I'm not sure we have something that shows exactly the number of seats, but we can get an approximate what this prototype would see from
With
Starbucks.
how tight this site is, like I really do think that'd be helpful for the board to understand with the parking and traffic situation, because I don't want to speak for you all. I hope you guys speak up too, but that I think is our number one concern. if you guys would like to also ask any questions or make comments.
Yeah, I don't know how it got that way, but I have concern with the drive-through facing the front side of your busiest street. I mean,
So I can speak a little bit to that. I mean, I think, I won't speak for Starbucks. Staff looked at this a long time. We've been talking with Starbucks for longer than they've been talking with NDOT. Probably going on a year now, maybe. It's been a
At
long
least.
time, yeah. And we've seen 2 or 3 reiterations, of their site plan. I do think this is the best site plan that is possible on this site. They moved from everyone knows that kind of traditional rectangular shaped Starbucks to this square shape. That allowed for a great deal more stacking and more parking. The on-site circulation is improved from previous versions. We were going to have to pick between the intersection of their private drive, their internal drive, and Railroad Street, either being one way in or one way out, but not both ways. And that was going to be problematic, we felt like. So we have a site plan that creates a 2-way drive across their site. Depending upon number of seats, in theory, this has enough parking per code. And the stacking is about as much stacking as you could possibly get, I would say. So did we love, getting back to Grant's question, did we love having the drive-through window on the south side of the building? No, but it seemed like the lesser of the issues. We wanted to make sure we addressed the functionality and the operation of it first and foremost, then dealt with aesthetics. And so that's kind of what happened is you get the drive-through window on the site that you'd prefer it not to be, but I think the site operates better with it that way.
so is the street or alleyway, whatever you want to call it, between the veterinary clinic and this staying in place?
Is that Indiana?
Indiana.
And that was going away, right?
It is in process. So we have actually, council has held first reading on the vacation of that right-of-way. And we have proceeded with removing what was left of the asphalt of that roadway and reseeding that. So it is going to be on for a second reading and final action next Tuesday at Town Council. We expect that to be finalized by the council. They have, it's a weird process to go through because you can't vacate it before you take out the asphalt, or you have no right to take out the asphalt because now it's somebody else's property. So you hold a first reading, you give staff direction to go out and hire someone to get rid of everything. You get rid of everything, and then we finalize the process afterwards. It's not how you would normally think of doing a process. So we fully expect, since council has directed us to pull it out, and we've already pulled it out, that they'll approve that next Tuesday. But we did put that caveat in our conditions just to make sure that, hey, if that right-of-way doesn't go through, the site plan doesn't really work anymore because they need that width.
Okay, so the people exiting the site from the north will hit South Railroad Street, correct? And they can only at this point go west? Is that one way? Did I see that?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So we're gonna push all that down through those other two
Actually,
streets to the west side of the vet clinic or over in the residential neighborhood?
I think actually we're going to force it east. if I
Towards
remember.
Oleo, towards 600.
Correct. So right now there's
Okay.
a blockade.
You say
for-
we're gonna force it east, but
further to the
can't
east.
tell you how many times I've sat on Pilton Pike there and somebody's turning left and you're right only to go to Culver's. Also. so.
Correct. I won't say that out loud. You can
I
only
understand.
control people to a
Yeah.
certain
I-
reasonable
yeah.
extent unless you fully shut it down.
I
I think-
understand, but
We would fully shut it down if we had to. That's not our preference. Our preference is to use signage and reasonable measures first and hope that it works. I can tell you the town's also working on a plan to widen and not extend, but widen South Railroad Street on around to where it takes a turn and comes out back onto Broadway. We would like to widen that out to what would be a legitimately wide enough for 2 cars, both directions. Cannot promise that we're going to be successful in that because we do have to acquire some small slivers of property from various property owners. But we are in process. We have met with every single one of those landowners. We've had the conversation. We've not gotten thrown out yet of those conversations. We have done the right-of-way descriptions, determined how much land is needed, and we are talking about slivers of land. And we are now in the appraisal process of that. So it's like government. Everything takes longer than it should, but we are in process on that. Can't promise it will happen again, because if a property owner says, I don't want to sell, I do not believe the town council will use eminent domain on this. So it's a voluntary
That can
thing.
happen, yeah.
I think I kind of want to also understand, like, if this went through construction, because understanding where construction traffic is coming in and out of, like, this is a very congested intersection. It's our busiest intersection, arguably, and I think I would be concerned a little bit about, Culvers already exist, so you can't use that swath of land. You obviously can't use anything but the site itself. Like, are there plans for the construction entrance and what that would look like?
We have not discussed specifically. We've have a general contractor we use for the other Starbucks we've developed, and we've started talking to him, so I'm sure we can come up with a plan. But they're very good at what they do, and they're used to constructing businesses and small pieces of property.
I also have some concerns about doing anything before you get your feedback from the state, because isn't that how we ended up with the median there?
Yeah, I mean, there was some challenges with that project. That is why we have the condition of approval that the town is not obligated to issue any kind of permit until they have approval from NDOT. That protects us from, we can go through all of our processes and not be required to issue our permit because that's in here. So we get to a point where we're still, they filed for TAC, they've gone through TAC, they've gone through Plan Commission, you've given your approval, and we're still waiting on NDOT. Unfortunately for them, that means we're all going to still wait on NDOT. But that we did not want to get into that exact situation where we have issued a site plan release for a project and they're still working through the details with NDOT. We did not want to repeat that. And so if this moves forward tonight, we won't repeat that because we've covered ourselves with that.
Any other comments or questions before the public hearing?
No, I would just also second your comment on the staging of the construction and all. It's going to be a challenge, so.
With that,
I will say legally, because we deal with this all the time, there are things called access agreements that is really common in the development world, that they'll enter into an access agreement with a neighboring property and pay them temporarily to use their property for staging. So that's, I don't know what they're doing here, but that's something that we see a lot.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you. All right, with that, I think, well, you can go ahead and sit down and we'll open up the public hearing.
Thank you.
If there are any members of the public who would like to have a comment or a question, please come up to the microphone, state your first name and spell your last name.
My name's Scott Harbin, SCOTHARBIN. I'm the owner and veterinarian of the property directly to the west of them. I will say they've been fantastic to work with. So they've reached out to me from day one to let me know, hey, here's what the plans were. Been upfront and honest about everything. Staff has been as well, basically. So there's been a lot of communication between at least the three of us through this entire process. My biggest concern, not going to get into parking spot, traffic flow, that's your guys' issue. My biggest concern was a couple. One was the NDOT issue, as far as, okay, with whatever NDOT's final determination is, would that create a situation where they would want to extend the median down and now all of a sudden start to limit access that I already have and affect traffic flow in and out of my facility, basically. So that's probably my biggest concern by far and away. As far as Indiana Street's concerned, Indiana Street was torn out a couple of weeks ago. It's grass it's dirt trying to grow grass at this point in time, basically. And like Ryan said, that's going to go through at the next town council to vacate that unless something surprising happens, basically. So I think that's a resolved issue. My only other two concerns, and I think they're things that can be worked out, but just want to make sure. One is when Culver's was built, I was surprised. They're higher up. If you go to the center of the property, they're probably about 3 or 4 feet above where I'm located at. So I'm assuming the Starbucks is gonna match their property line. So obviously there's gonna be a significant elevation change, and just kind of don't know anything about drainage. That's not my line of work. Just want to make sure there's some assurances of like, hey, which way is water going, to make sure that I don't become the first low man on the pole as far as collecting everybody else's water and drainage, as far as that issue is concerned. And then the other one is same thing with them being 3 or 4 feet up. And it's not up there, but where the drive-through came through, there is going to be a chance where we're going to be catching headlights pretty much at eye level. By the time you get to 3 or 4 feet of elevation, by the time you get the lights off the road, that's going to be right at an eye level. So depending on time of day, time of night, if we're out walking dogs, things of that nature, I know we talked about doing something to kind of break line of sight and visibility, and just kind of also a precursor, because I know I have some utility poles that run through there and there's an easement. Like if it did go through and it became a problem, you maybe see me coming back through and being like, hey, can I get a variance because I need to do something on my side of the property to break line of sight because of traffic, because of headlights, things of that nature coming through, basically. Don't have a huge problem with them coming in. I think it's just more formalities as far as things of that nature, and I think in my mind the big one is the NDOT issue. That would affect my practice the most, depending on what they decided. And even when Ryan says they can go through the approval process, have everything, but the town can hold a building permission till they get NDOT approval, does that mean NDOT approval with the median staying the same? Or does that mean NDOT approval with changes to the median?
We don't have an answer.
Because there's a difference between those two scenarios in my mind.
So what is your main concern with NDOT then?
My biggest concern, I mean, right now, knock on wood, been at our location for 30 years.
Yeah.
Never had an accident of entry and exit through our property. We currently have left in, left out, right in, right out. So we have plenty of access to come in. That's our parking lot. With Indiana Street being moved, I only have an alley and I have South Railroad now. So my entrance and exits to my building have become decreased. So if the median was extended west,
Okay.
and now all of a sudden I wasn't allowed to have ingress and egress in and out of my property the way I have it now, it's going to make it really difficult for clients to get in and out of my facility.
Yeah, I think that's already been done. I mean, it's been done to Tim's with putting that median in.
Correct.
And now you've got to deal with people that are going past the median and then trying to make a U-turn to get back and get their donuts.
Correct. So that's
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other members of the public? Thank you. And again, state your first name and spell your last name.
It's Dawn Justice, last name spelled Justus. Similar concerns to Dr. Harbin is the median. So we own the property right across the alley that is currently a barber shop. And so if they can only allow west, if the median goes all the way, there's only one way in, one way out. And then I know there was talk about making that alley just a one-way north. So then there would be no access for people to get in. Like even if they went around the curve, they wouldn't be able to go down to get to the barber shop. So similar concerns on the median piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in the audience that wish to speak? All right, I'll note that there's no one else wishing to speak. We will go ahead and close the public hearing. Do you want to go ahead and start addressing before we bring the petitioner back
Let's allow
up?
Starbucks to answer the ones that
Okay.
they believe they can answer, and then we'll follow up with the rest of responses. If there's anything you guys felt you could address, maybe the headlights, things like that.
That still need to be addressed?
Yeah, from the public hearing comments.
Yeah, I have the questions here. That helps. Sorry. So I think ones that you could address was talking about the height and how there might be headlights coming into his practice. It sounds like you guys talked about something. Is that something that Starbucks would be willing to do, just so he as a business owner doesn't have to come back and do something that Starbucks could fix initially?
I don't think we show anything on our plans. I'm not sure what we show right now on our site plan. We've had this situation before at another Starbucks where we added riprap between the two sites. The stormwater specifically, we have been working with Culver's. Their site was designed to also collect our stormwater. They have a detention area on their site. So the plan would be for us to connect and drain into them, and we're paying them for some of that work that was done. So that's a done deal.
Are you willing to, can you pull up the site plan?
So your drainage is gonna go to the Culver's retention pond, is that what you said?
That's the plan. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it was, their site was constructed.
So I think Dr. Harbin's concern is, agree, first of all, yes, Morgan's correct. They are going to drain and utilize the dry detention basin that's currently at Culver's. I think the concern is as you raise the site up and you're going to have the drive-through lane 5 feet from Dr. Harbin's property line, that there's a hill there, right? That's a slope downward, and that is going to shed water to some degree towards Dr. Harbin. How much, we don't know today. That would get determined through the full site plan review process that Mark and his team will take a look at that. But there's probably some watershed that would occur towards Dr. Harbin if it's not collected somehow else. So, you know, I think we can commit to doing the normal review that we would do, and that essentially is they're not permitted to shed water any more than they already do today onto the neighboring property. So they probably shed some very little amount today. They could continue to shed that. They cannot add to that. Or if they do add to it, that has to be detained, held back, and released at a slower release rate.
But if you're raising it 3 feet, you're gonna have something going his way. So they essentially would have to do some kind of storm drain on the west side.
That may be.
Personal opinion and
Yep.
gravity. We all know gravity.
Yep. Agree? Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot to figure out.
That can be worked out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there some landscaping that would help Dr. Harbin's concern on the headlights line of sight issue?
I think that's another pro of the site plan is the drive-through window being on the south side of the building. The drive-through window is not right there facing his building, and he had voiced some concern about the animals using that area behind his building. So that was another pro we liked about the site plan, and I think he did as well, that the order board and the pickup window was not right there. So, and the headlights weren't facing his building directly, but I think we're open to some sort of screening.
Yeah, I think that
It's
northwest
right
side,
here.
there would be
Sorry,
some.
this cursor's tiny, but I
Yeah.
think the concern is, you know,
They come
especially with
around.
daylight savings, this headlight's gonna shine right back through this way. And so, just, you know, would you be willing to work with staff when we get to that stage to place some well-placed arborvitae or something like that that gets some height on it that would help block those
And
type
was
of
that
things?
one of the conditions of approval too, the landscaping along the drive-through
Some landscaping.
lane?
we
I
didn't wanna
thought
get-
it was.
We didn't want to get too specific with it because all the reasons Grant just brought up, we're going to get a little bit of a conflict. We got 5 feet, we have a slope, we want to put landscaping in, it's going to get tight real fast.
Do we know that slope is gonna be 3 feet?
I don't think we know that for a fact
Okay.
yet. This is kind of the chicken and the egg thing.
I
It happens at
understand.
BZA all the time, happens at rezones all the
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
Brianne's familiar
Yeah.
with it, is we're doing something and the site plan's not been fully engineered
Yep.
at this point. But if you're willing to work with us on, you know,
Why we're here.
suitable placement of landscape material to mitigate headlight views, I think that would be important for the board to hear.
Yes.
Okay.
We can work with you, definitely.
So I think as a reminder, like what the board's here to decide is those conditions.
The conditions,
And
yeah.
if it meets the, I
Findings
forget-
of fact.
Findings of fact.
Correct.
Like, is it injurious, those types of things. So we'll have to just keep that in mind. But back to the question Mr. Harbin had about NDOT, I think the clarification was with NDOT's approval, they could say like, yeah, this works, but it only works if we extend this
But you have to
median,
extend
and that does harm his
100 feet,
business.
yeah.
So I can speak to that to some degree here. I had a conversation with Michael McNeil, who's the district engineer for NDOT this morning. He was not ready to get into any of the details of the traffic impact study and all of that. But his his statement to me was that at this time, they have no plan to extend the concrete median westward. So That would be towards Dr. Harbin, towards Thames, towards the justices. It would not, they don't see any value in doing that today, and so they have no plan to do so. Conversely, they may request to extend it eastward. And to be frank, that's something that the town has talked about doing as well. Because what you have right now, if you're leaving Culver's, you're not supposed to turn out left, and we are seeing people cut the median drastically to avoid being forced
To get
right.
to the stoplight? I haven't seen that yet, so.
Well, I have. It's kind of, you can't fix certain things, right? Like,
Well, yeah, I can't say that.
So, we can fix it. We install a median, and it would go from where its current location all the way to the Mount Comfort intersection. So, again, I'm not saying NDOT will require that today, but that's on the table for them still. And if it doesn't happen with this project or another project, the town is very much considering doing it as part of our widening project that will begin construction on next year, spring of 26. So,
Did he give you any indication what timeline on when they're going to make these decisions?
I cannot, unfortunately, other than we are a part of the meeting that's happening next Monday.
Is the intention for the traffic study to be revealed on Monday?
I think the intention is to discuss the traffic study as it's been done, NDOT to share whatever its analysis of that study is.
Okay. I only ask this. I feel like you kind of understand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is we can also continue this. That's up to the board. I know we have a lot of questions and concerns. I don't know if the board would be more comfortable understanding the findings of the traffic study, and then also with the parking spaces, seeing the seating plan to really truly know that we are within code. I'm sure it's something that can be worked out regardless, but if we're that close potentially, that could be an issue. So I'm not saying that's something we have to do, that's just an option.
Well, I think if
You're
staff,
suggesting to table it until we get a report?
That's an option.
It's an option.
That does push us to another meeting. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. If not, we would order of operations again have to make a motion on the special exception initially. And with that, I will entertain a motion on the special exception, which is to allow a drive-through.
And certainly we would recommend any motions to approve be contingent upon staff recommendations.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the drive-through pending staff recommendations.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we have approved a special exception to allow the drive-through contingent upon staff conditions. The next would be for the development standard variances. And we have how many? Can this all be done at once, collectively?
If it's all the same motion,
Okay.
unless, if there, yes. If there's any you want to pull out and do different, you can, but
Okay.
you can also do it collectively.
Can we pull up the
All of
standard?
the-
Yeah, thank you.
And we're happy to answer any questions you have over any of these.
Do we have any questions on these before we entertain any motions? No? I'll hear a motion.
One question I have, if the widening project, is that gonna cut into their property at some point? I mean, we're already pushing it back, the setback off the Broadway Street.
No, I don't believe so. They're dedicating some additional right-of-way as part of the project, and that's not included in the setback reduction. Now, I can't tell you that NDOT will never not come in the future and try to widen
Sure.
again. I kind of find it hard to believe that they would ever take Broadway to 6 lanes. We're 4 already. Could they maybe do a double left someday? Maybe. So there could be some impact down the road. I think it would be more borne on the Culver site than other Culver's and Speedway and Family Express and
Yeah.
CVS more than parcels down the road. But certainly, they could seek additional right-of-way in the future. It would not be us on Broadway. It would be NDOT, unless we've talked about, and I'm probably getting into details that you don't care about, but we've talked about, because there are no sidewalks on Broadway in many locations, going in and buying to do sidewalks, but we'll be getting the sidewalk with this project. So
Okay.
I don't think we're ever going to be a buyer there. We may be a buyer someday on the Culver side, on the Mount Comfort side of it, but even there, I think the impact here, because I think driving towards what was helpful to think through is, I don't know that we're going to have a lot of additional right-of-way impacts that impact their property
Okay.
from a space standpoint.
Okay.
We would have a massive impact someday in the future if we do the underpass. Not necessarily from a space standpoint, because we actually think that probably fits in the existing right-of-way of our thoroughfare plan. But in the event that we do an underpass under the tracks, the right-in, right-out that's currently there on the Culver's site on Mount Comfort would go away.
Close.
And that would affect this site, right? Just from a circulation standpoint, that would have some effect. It wouldn't affect them directly, but it affects anybody cutting through to get to them. So
Sure. Okay.
that's the bigger impact I think that could happen in the future. And that's acknowledged somewhere in our conditions, because we did the same thing. We wanted to be very consistent with what we did with Culver's.
Yeah.
If you read the Culver's conditions, a lot of them are going to be verbatim these conditions.
Do I have any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the variances as with town suggestions, staff suggestions, sorry.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have any announcements? No. Okay. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Do you have a second?